Hello there, YouTubers. Well, I'm starting another weaving project. You can see it's at the smaller of my looms at the Ashford 8-shaft, 24-inch wide table loom. The biggest reason I'm doing this is because usually once a year in February, Judy and I go down to the trade fair that's held at Oshkosh, the Echoes of the Past trade fair. A reenacting group we belong to usually goes to that. And I take this along and do some weaving demonstration down there. So I want to have it all set up before I go down to that in a couple of weeks. So I'm setting this up. You can't really see too well from where where the camera is right now what I'm doing, but I'm going to move the camera in a minute, show you what I'm doing. Remember, with this loom I thread from front to back, and right now I'm sitting at the back of the loom. All the threads are up here, over here, hanging over the front breast beam, and I'm pulling threads back. I'm threading the heddles now, and I'll pull the camera in closer so you can get a quick look at that, and then I'm going to turn it off and kind of leave this one sit until I actually start weaving. So, but for you that'll come really fast. For me it'll take a couple minutes. All right, let's do a little bit of threading of heddles. The reed is keeping all my threads nicely organized back there because with front to back threading I go through the reed first when I first bring the threads over to the loom. And I'm double slayed through the reed, so that means there's 2 threads through each opening there, and since I took these straight off the warping board, there's a little loop. It's all one continuous thread going up and back like that. So I have to cut the 2 threads apart first time through. So now we'll go through heddle number 1, and then heddle number 2 with this. So there's 2 threads. And we'll just push those out of the way, grab the next 2, and I kind of use this slaying hook to separate the threads a little bit. So let's go down here, cut that. Get through there. There we are, there's another one. Another heddle 3. So the pattern for heddles on this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This should be a 4-shaft pattern. I'm intending to make a twill, 2-2 twill. But because I find it easier to use extra shafts to simulate a 4-shaft pattern using 8 shafts, that's easier than taking the loom apart, taking heddles off of shafts 6 through 8 and moving them onto shafts 1 through 4. I'm using an 8-shaft loom, an all 8 shafts, to do a pattern that could easily be done on only 4. It's just that it's easier to use more shafts than it is to move heddles. So that's why I'm doing a straight 2-2 twill on 8 shafts, even though there's no way I really need 8 shafts for doing this. There we go. You have now watched me do the threading of 8 heddles. I'm trying to remember what did I put on here. 20 inches, 480 threads total. 20 inches wide at 24 threads per inch. So I've got a long way to go. Now I've got you really zoomed in. Let's see if we can actually make this work so you can actually see me threading. I'm hoping you can see the opening in the heddle. Push the first thread through. Next heddle, go through the opening with a thread. Push those off to the side. This is tedious work, I will grant you that. Well, YouTubers, I think before I actually start showing you weaving, I'm going to show you the pattern that I'm weaving. And here it is in the Fiberworks PCW Silver program that I use. Now, I mentioned when I was showing you just a few seconds ago from your point of view, the threading of the heddles, that I was using 8 shafts to accomplish a 4-shaft pattern. And that the reason I was doing that was because I need 120 heddles per shaft to do this if I use 4 shafts, because I've got 480 threads. But on this loom, I have it set up with 100 heddles per shaft. So for me, it is easier to thread all 8 shafts with less heddles per shaft than it is to move heddles from shafts 5 through 8 over to shafts 1 through 4. So you can see what the pattern looks like in the cloth here. I'm going to make a few changes. First off, just to make this easier for all of us to see, I'm enlarging the working size here. Now I'm going to change this. So instead of using shafts 1, 2, 3, and 4, we're going to use shafts 1 through 8. So let's do that. We'll just go out to here and up to 8. And we'll only go over that far just to get you the idea. Well, as you can see by the long float lines here, that's not going to work. So now I'm going to go change the tie-up area. This program, remember, is set up for a floor loom that has treadles. I'll get to that part of the discussion in a minute. So let's change the tie-up and do this 1, 2, then we've got 4, 5, then 6, 7, and 7, 8. Now that I've changed the tie-up, the look of the cloth is exactly the same as it was before I made any changes to the threading. We're still going to treadle 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. No problem there. I've now just spread the threads out onto 8 shafts instead of 4. So instead of needing 120 heddles per shaft, I only need 60 heddles per shaft on 8 shaft, as opposed to 120 heddles per shaft on 4 shafts. It's just an arithmetic change, and it's easier for me than taking the loom apart and moving the heddles. Now, the other thing to note is the table loom does not have tie-up. It is a direct tie-up process. So I need a lift plan. So instead of pressing a treadle 1, for example, to get shafts 1, 4, 5, and 8 to lift, or pressing treadle 4 to get shafts 3, 4, 6, and 7 and 8 to lift. I need to be able to move all of these independently. That can be done by changing from tie-up mode to lift plan mode. So let's do that. One click here will do it. The program has now changed that. So when I am working with this, I will move levers at the top of the loom. For the first row would be lever 1, 4, 5, and 8 for the first pick across the loom. Then I'll do levers 1, 2, 5, 6 for my next shot. Then 2, 3, 6, 7, and the next one will be 3, 4, 7, 8. Now the next row you will see is exactly the same as the first row. And row 6 is the same as row 2. So I really only have 4 positions, this one, this one, this one, and this one, that I have to worry about. The rest of them are just repeats. So that's the plan for how I will do the moving of the levers at the top of the loom to open the shed by raising and lowering shafts. Now that you've seen this in the pattern, let's go look at it on the loom. All right, YouTubers, we're now sitting at the table loom, and let's point out a few things. So, remember I talked about levers and raising and lowering shafts, and the fact that this loom, this table loom, is going to use a lift plan, a direct tie-up. It doesn't have treadles on the floor. So to raise and lower the shafts, I use these levers right here. And for my own convenience, I've numbered them 1 through 8. So if I just pull down on lever 1, what that does is it pulls on these strings through this hole, and that raises shaft number 1. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so remember I said I'm doing a twill pattern. So with twill it's 2 by 2. So we're going to have 2 up and 2 down, then we're going to shift by 1, and we're going to shift by 1, and we're going to shift by 1 like this. So when all of the levers are up, I'm in the neutral position, there's no open shed. And obviously you can't weave like that. So if I were at a floor loom where I had pedals, every time I was in between, I would take my foot off the pedal in between when I was moving it from one treadle to another, and then the entire loom would return to this normal or nothing, no open shed position. But on a table loom, I'm not going to do that. So because I'm using 8 shafts to simulate 4 shafts, we can imagine that these shafts aren't here, 5 through 8. So here would be a 4 shaft pattern, 2 down, 2 up. Then the next position would be 2 down, 2 up. Then the next position would be 2 down, 2 up. Then the next position would be 2 down, 2 up. And then next we'd go back to this position. Now if I did it that way by raising and lowering the 2, I would always return to the neutral or no open shed position. But because these levers will stay put without my hands touching them, or if it were a treadle loom without a foot holding the treadle, I'm not going to do it by returning these 2 to that position and then pulling these 2 down. What I'm going to do, after I weave with shafts 1 and 2, the levers down so the shaft's raised, instead of that to get to 2, 3 down. I'm simply going to raise the lever for shaft 1, leaving shaft 2's lever pointing down, and therefore shaft 2 is sitting in an up position. And then I'm going to lower the shaft, the lever for shaft 3. What that means is I only have to mess with one lever instead of 2 for each new shaft. When I go from 2-3 to 3-4, I'm not going to touch shaft 3. I'm going to return the lever for shaft 2 and lower the handle for shaft 4. Same thing when I go from 3-4 to 4-1, I'm going to go 3 up, 1 down. And from there I'm going to go from put 4 up and take 2 down. Now again, because I'm using all 8 shafts instead of just 4, simply to avoid moving heddles, these 4 over here will always be in the exact same position as these 4 over here. Okay? So let's just get it set up that way, and we'll do just a couple of shots across, a couple of picks, like this. There's that. Beat. Now I'm at 2-3. I'll go through the other way. And beat. Raise those up, pull these 2 down. Go through like that. Go through like that. Well, there's no 9, but I can pull down 5, and since there's no 9, I pull down 1. Go through this way. And then we'll do this, and we're back to our starting position with 1 and 2 down, 5 and 6 down. So if you remember back to the lift plan that I showed you on the computer, that's what I have just done for 4 picks of weaving using a lift plan method instead of foot treadles to accomplish that. And I think with all that having been said, this video has gotten long enough, and I've accomplished what I wanted, which was to talk about the pattern for a twill, just a little bit. It's 2 up, 2 down, 2 up, 2 down. It's a 2-2 twill, and how I'm doing it with a lift plan rather than with treadles. So that's enough for this video. As usual, if you like my videos, I would appreciate if you'd subscribe. If you are a subscriber, thanks a million. I appreciate having all of the subscribers that I do have. I will show you more of this pattern when I get farther with the weaving, and when I take it off, you'll get to see that too. But that's enough for now. Have a good one. We'll catch you the next time around on YouTube. Bye-bye.